Dr. Emily Walker stood at the bridge of the Hope's Light, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the distress signal. The pulsing red dot represented millions of lives on the colony world below, each heartbeat of light another moment slipping away. Behind her, Captain Michael Hayes paced with military precision, his steps echoing against the medical ship's pristine white deck. "The Empire's declaration is clear," Dr. Hayes said, his voice tight with frustration. "Any human medical intervention in their space is an act of war. We'd be risking more than just our ship." Emily turned from the display, her green medical uniform, a stark contrast to the captain's blue command suit. "And their declaration is wrong, Michael. Look at these readings." She gestured to the streaming data, her hand steady despite the weight of the decision. "This isn't just another plague. The infection rate is unlike anything I've seen. If we don't help, the entire colony dies in less than a week." The bridge crew worked in tense silence, their fingers dancing over holographic controls, as the massive medical vessel hung in space like a silver needle against the black. Earth's most advanced hospital ship carried everything needed to save the colony: nanite medical teams, quantum-enhanced diagnostic systems, and treatment pods that could process thousands per hour. Hayes stopped his pacing, looking out through the bridge's panoramic window at the distant star that marked Empire space. "Your brother served with me in the diplomatic corps, Emily. He'd say you're being stubborn. Tommy would be the first one through that border," Emily said, a slight smile breaking through her professional demeanor. "Remember the Rigel incident?" The captain's stern expression cracked. "He smuggled medical supplies in diplomatic pouches for 3 months. Hayes turned to his command console, fingers hovering over the controls. "Security teams report we've got 30 minutes before the regular Empire patrol sweeps this sector." Emily nodded, already pulling up treatment protocols on her neural link. "That's all we need. My teams can deploy emergency field units the moment we break atmosphere. We'll have the first wave of treatments started before they even know we're there." "And if they do notice?" Hayes asked, though his hands were already setting the course. "We're a medical ship, Captain." Emily's voice carried the weight of every oath she'd ever taken. "We're clearly marked. Even the Empire respects the ancient laws of medical neutrality. What are they going to do? Shoot a hospital?" The Hope's Light curved through space with grace that belied its size. Inside, 2,000 medical personnel prepared their equipment. Emily watched through internal monitors as her teams moved with practiced efficiency, loading hover gurneys with supplies and calibrating portable treatment pods. As they approached the border, Hayes received a priority message. His face darkened as he read it. "Emily, look at this. The Empire just added a new chemical marker to their quarantine list. It's one of the components in our primary treatment protocol." Emily leaned over, scanning the data. Something about the chemical structure nagged at her professional instincts. "That's not right," she muttered, enhancing the molecular display. "This isn't a normal plague component. The protein chains are too uniform." "Too." She stopped, her eyes widening. Hayes saw the change in her expression. "What is it?" "We have to go in," she said, her voice now carrying an edge of steel. "Not just for treatment, Captain. These readings. This isn't a natural outbreak. Someone engineered this, and they did it recently." Hayes straightened, years of military training taking over. "You're sure?" Emily was already sending secure bursts of data to her medical teams. "Positive. And the Empire adding that specific marker to the quarantine list right now. They're not trying to keep us out to protect their citizens. They're hiding something." The Hope's Light crossed the border into Empire space, its white hull gleaming like a beacon of defiance against the darkness. In the colony below, millions waited for help, unaware that their salvation would trigger a chain of events that would shake the galaxy's foundation. As Emily prepared for emergency deployment, she remembered something her brother once said. The thing about humanity, sis, is that we're at our most dangerous when we're trying to save lives. She was about to prove how right he'd been. The first emergency field hospital rose from the colony's dusty surface, like a blooming flower, its white walls extending and interlocking with precision. Dr. Emily Walker watched through the Hope's Light's medical bay window as 3 more hospitals self-deployed around it, their nano-fabricated structures gleaming under the red giant sun. First wave of patients incoming. Dr. Marcus Reynolds called from his station. Vital signs are, God, Emily, these people are barely hanging on. Emily keyed her neural link, connecting to the ship's medical network. Through the enhanced reality display, she could see the stream of colonial citizens being guided into the field hospitals. Their skin had a gray, almost translucent quality that set off every warning bell in her medical training. Captain Hayes, she called over the command channel. We need at least 3 hours for initial stabilization. These people won't survive transport before then. Hayes' voice came back tight with tension. We may not have 3 minutes. Long-range sensors just picked up multiple hyperspace distortions. Big ones. Emily's hands flew over her medical console, initiating emergency treatment protocols. We can't stop now. We've got over 1,000 patients already in the system. She turned to her team. Download all treatment data to local servers. If we have to pull out, the colonial doctors need to know what we found. The first Imperial warship emerged from hyperspace, like a knife cutting through black silk. Its hull was midnight blue, almost purple, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. 2 more ships followed, taking up attack positions around the Hope's Light. This is Commander Julian Reed of the Imperial vessel Orders Dawn. A cold voice filled the bridge. You have violated Imperial space and endangered Imperial citizens with your primitive medical practices. You will power down all systems immediately. Hayes stood at attention, his voice steady. Commander Reed, this is Captain Michael Hayes of the medical ship Hope's Light. We are conducting an emergency medical intervention under Section 7 of the Galactic Medical Rights Charter. We have clear markings and... Your charter holds no power here. Reed cut him off. You have 10 seconds to comply before we open fire. Emily rushed to the bridge, her medical uniform still spattered with blood from treating patients. Commander, we have over 1,000 critical patients in our care. If you fire on this ship, you'll be killing your own people along with us. There was a pause, and for a moment, Emily thought she'd gotten through. Then she saw Hayes' face. He was looking at the tactical display, where multiple weapon systems were powering up across all 3 Imperial ships. They're not here to stop us, Hayes said quietly. They're here to bury the evidence. He turned to his crew. All hands, Emergency Protocol 0. Get to the escape pods. Now. Emily felt Hayes grab her arm as the first plasma bolt struck the ship. The medical bay, where she'd been standing minutes before, erupted in silent fire. The data, she gasped, fighting against Hayes' pull. The treatment records. Already downloading to your personal drive, Hayes said, dragging her toward the escape pod section. Marcus started the transfer the moment we detected the ships. They reached the pod bay as the second volley hit. Emergency lights flashed red, and the ship's AI announced in its calm voice, critical hull breach, decks 3 through 7. Life support failing. Hayes shoved Emily into a pod, but didn't follow. What are you doing? She screamed over the sound of tearing metal. Buying time, he said, hitting the launch control. Someone has to tell Earth what really happened here. His last words were cut off as the pod sealed and launched. Through the pod's small window, Emily watched the Hope's Light die. The great medical ship, with its pristine white hull now scared and burning, continued to broadcast its emergency signal until the final Imperial volley split it apart. The last thing she saw before her pod entered the atmosphere was Captain Hayes, standing at his bridge window, saluting, as the ship broke apart around him. In her hand, the data drive pulsed with information that would change the galaxy forever. As her pod plummeted toward the colony below, Emily Walker made a promise to her dead friend and her lost crew. The Empire would learn that killing healers was the worst mistake they could have made. The first tremors registered at 300 hours Universal Earth time. Deep in the Mariana Trench monitoring station, Dr. Laura Bennett stared at her seismic readings with growing confusion. The patterns were like nothing she'd seen in 15 years of deep ocean research. "Marcus," she called to her research partner, "are you seeing this? It's like the entire Pacific floor is shifting." Marcus Reynolds, fresh from his sister's memorial service on the Hope's Light, didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on a different screen, one showing similar disturbances from the Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic oceans. "It's not shifting," he said quietly. "It's waking up." The massive screens covering the station's main wall lit up with emergency protocols that neither scientist had seen before. Ancient access codes, hidden in Earth's most secure networks, began executing themselves. The neural link network across Earth crackled with encrypted transmissions that hadn't been used in centuries. Above their heads, a holographic projection sprang to life. The image of Fleet Admiral James Morrison, his uniform, unlike any current Earth military design, filled the room. "If you're seeing this message, then Protocol Sleeping Giant has been activated. What follows is the truth we've kept hidden since Earth joined the galactic community." Laura's neural link pinged with incoming data so dense it made her head spin. Historical records, technical specifications, military protocols, all hidden behind layers of security that had been invisible until now. The truth about Earth's peaceful integration into galactic society began to unfold. 300 years ago, Morrison's recording continued. "When we first encountered the Empire, we knew war was inevitable. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. Their philosophy of racial purity and cultural dominance would eventually bring us into conflict. So we created the greatest deception in human history." The seismic readings peaked as massive doors, hidden beneath centuries of ocean sediment, began to open. Automated construction facilities, powered by geothermal energy and hidden from even the most advanced alien scans, activated their launch sequences. Every treaty we signed, every military reduction we agreed to, was part of the plan, Morrison explained. "While we appeared to disarm above, we built in secret below. Our oceans, which the Empire dismissed as primitive environmental obstacles, became our greatest advantage." Marcus watched as the first images from deep-sea cameras came online. Massive shapes, their hulls covered in synthetic scales that mimicked deep-sea creatures, began rising from their long slumber. These weren't the sleek, aesthetic vessels of the Empire. These ships looked like they had been designed by evolution itself, combining organic principles with advanced technology in ways the Empire had never imagined. "The ships you're seeing," Morrison's hologram continued, "represent 3 centuries of hidden innovation. Each vessel carries technology reverse-engineered from every alien species we've encountered, combined with human ingenuity, and tested in the most extreme environment on Earth, our own oceans." Laura's neural link displayed the numbers: over 500 capital ships, 2,000 support vessels, and an arsenal that made Earth's official military look like a collection of toys, all hidden beneath the waves, all evolving and improving under the guidance of advanced AI systems that had never been revealed to the galactic community. "The Empire believes they know humanity's strength," Morrison's image said, his expression grim. "They're about to learn how wrong they are. Sleeping Giant Protocol is now active. May God have mercy on those who forced us to wake it." As the message ended, Marcus received a priority alert. His face, already serious, turned to stone. "They'd found Emily," he said, reading the encrypted message. "She's alive, and she has proof. The Empire, they created the plague. They've been testing bioweapons on their own people." Laura watched as another massive ship broke, the ocean's surface, water cascading from its biomechanical hull. "Then they're about to learn another lesson," she said, her voice hard. "Nobody kills human doctors and gets away with it." In orbit, Empire surveillance satellites recorded the scene with growing alarm. Across every ocean on Earth, humanity's real military power was rising. The Empire had thought they were striking a defenseless medical ship. Instead, they had awakened something that had been waiting centuries for just this moment. Admiral Jessica Stone stood in the command center of the Mariana base, her white hair and weathered face reflected in the massive screens showing the rising fleet. She'd spent 20 years as a retired officer, playing the role of a simple fishing boat captain. Now, finally, she could show the galaxy who she really was. "Status report on the Thunder," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of planning. Lieutenant Sarah Blake, recently transferred from Surface Navy Command, brought up the holographic display. "The EWS Thunder is at 98% power, Admiral. Biomechanical systems are fully integrated, and the neural network is online. She's unlike anything I've ever seen." The display showed their flagship in all its terrible glory. 5 kilometers of advanced technology wrapped in a hull that seemed to breathe. Its surface rippled with chromatophores, like a giant cephalopod, able to change color and pattern at will. Weapon systems were concealed behind layers of bioorganic armor that could heal itself using principles learned from Earth's deep-sea creatures. "My brother was the chief medical officer on the Hope's Light," Stone said, touching the memorial band on her wrist. "He believed in saving lives. Now we'll show the Empire how many lives their little display of power is going to cost them." The Thunder's launch sequence began as ancient doors, hidden under the Pacific for centuries, opened wider. Millions of tons of water displaced as the massive ship rose like a living mountain from the deep. Its hull, despite its size, made almost no sound as it broke the surface. Another gift from studying ocean predators. "Admiral," Blake called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the colonial world. Dr. Walker has made contact. She's confirmed what we suspected about the plague." Stone's eyes hardened. "Put it on the main screen." Emily Walker's face appeared, tired but determined. "Admiral, I'm sending proof now. The Empire has been running bioweapon tests on their own colonial worlds. The Hope's Light was destroyed because we would have discovered their program. They're planning something bigger, something they call Project Purification." "Understood, Doctor. Stay hidden. Help is coming." Stone turned to her bridge crew as the transmission ended. "Signal the fleet. All ships begin surface emergence. It's time to show the Empire what humanity has been hiding under the waves." Across Earth's oceans, more ships broke the surface. Each one represented a different aspect of humanity's secret innovation. Stealth destroyers with skin like electric eels, capable of generating electromagnetic fields that could fry enemy systems. Carrier vessels that housed swarms of biomechanical fighters inspired by marine insects. Support ships that could generate shields using principles learned from deep-sea thermal vents. The Thunder's bridge was a marvel of human engineering. Instead of the sterile, geometric designs favored by the Empire, it was organic and fluid. Neural interfaces merged seamlessly with human operators, creating a symbiosis between ship and crew that the Empire's rigid technology could never match. "Send this message to all ships," Stone commanded, standing at the Thunder's main control interface. "For 300 years, we've hidden our strength. We've watched the Empire's cruelty while building in secret. They think they know humanity's power. because they've seen our surface. Now they'll learn why Earth's oceans are deeper than their empire's wisdom. The Thunder's engines, powered by a combination of antimatter and principles, learned from bioluminescent deep-sea life, hummed to life. The massive ship rose into the air, water cascading from its living hull like a waterfall. Plot course for the colonial world, Stone ordered, and send one more message to the Empire's command. Tell them. She paused, remembering her brother's last transmission from the Hope's light. Tell them that attacking a hospital ship was their first mistake. Assuming we couldn't fight back will be their last. As the Thunder led Earth's hidden fleet into the sky, Imperial sensors across the galaxy began registering something their analysts had never seen before. A force that combined the best of human military innovation with 3 centuries of secret development. The Empire had expected political protests over their attack on the Hope's light. Instead, they had awakened an ocean of thunder. The Imperial battle group Eternal Dominion hung in perfect formation above Proxima Centauri. 20 ships arranged in the traditional crescent pattern that had conquered 1,000 worlds. Admiral Vincent Nash of the Empire watched the long-range sensors with growing unease. The human fleet approaching his position moved. Wrong. Multiple contacts, my lord, his sensor officer reported. But the readings make no sense. The signatures keep shifting, like they're swimming through space. Nash leaned forward in his command throne. After the successful elimination of the human medical ship, High Command had expected some response. But this was different. These ships didn't match any known human design. The lead vessel is broadcasting, sir, communications announced. Audio only. Admiral Stone's voice filled the bridge, calm and deadly, as a deep ocean current. This is the EWS Thunder. You stand accused of attacking a medical vessel and testing bioweapons on civilian populations. Surrender now, or face the consequences of your actions. Nash allowed himself a thin smile. 20 elite Imperial ships against their Galactic fleet. Open a channel. He straightened his uniform. This is Admiral Nash. Your accusations are as primitive as your understanding of galactic order. Prepare tow. The thunder struck before he could finish the sentence. One moment it was 10,000 kilometers away. The next it had somehow crossed the distance using a drive system that left no energy wake. The massive ship's hull rippled with patterns that confused both sensors and human eyes. Evasive action, Nash shouted, but it was already too late. The Thunder's first attack wasn't a weapon, it was a signal. Microscopic machines, released during its transit, had already infiltrated the Imperial ship's hull. Based on deep-sea microorganisms that could survive in the most extreme conditions, these nanites began dismantling the Empire's vaunted shield generators at the molecular level. Lieutenant Blake's voice cut through the Imperial command channel. You study the surface of worlds, Admiral Nash. We study the depths. Let us show you what that means. The rest of Earth's fleet emerged from their stealth approach, moving in attack patterns based on wolf pack hunting strategies. Ships with biomechanical hulls that could change color and pattern like giant cuttlefish created confusion among Imperial gunners. Vessels inspired by deep-sea anglerfish used bioluminescent lures to draw enemy fire away from their true positions. Shields are gone. Nash's engineering officer screamed. But there's no energy signature, no weapon impact. Because you're looking for the wrong weapons, Stone's voice replied. While you built bigger guns, we learned from nature. The most effective predators don't always need brute force. The Thunder's main weapon finally revealed itself. Inspired by electric eels and powered by antimatter reactions, it released an electromagnetic pulse that had been specifically tuned to the Empire's technology. Ships began losing power, their crews helpless, as systems failed around them. Nash watched in horror as his perfect formation dissolved into chaos. Human ships moved through his battle group like sharks through a school of fish, their attacks coordinated by neural networks that could process information faster than any Imperial computer. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You're supposed to be primitive. Your technology was assessed, cataloged." "You cataloged what we showed you," Stone interrupted. "You never looked beneath the surface. That was your second mistake. Your first was attacking healers. Computer, execute final phase." The Thunder's hull suddenly sprouted thousands of small protrusions, replicated copies of the emergency medical pods from the Hope's Light, each one attached to an Imperial ship, but instead of delivering aid, they injected swarms of microscopic machines that began systematically disabling weapons and engines. In less than an hour, the entire Imperial battle group had been neutralized without a single hull breach. Nash stood on his powerless bridge, watching as the Thunder approached his flagship. Its hull now rippled with the same color pattern as the Hope's Light, a final reminder of why this battle had been fought. "Send word to your Empire," Stone transmitted. "Tell them that every medical ship they destroyed will be avenged. And tell them that humanity has only begun to show what we can do. The oceans have taught us patience, Admiral Nash. Now they've taught us how to hunt." Dr. Emily Walker moved through the shadows of the Colonial Medical Center, her standard-issue stealth suit adapting to match the wall patterns. 3 weeks of hiding among the colonists had taught her every security patrol pattern, every blind spot in the Empire's surveillance. "Team 2 in position," Marcus Reynolds whispered through their encrypted neural link. He and a small group of Colonial Resistance members had been planning this infiltration for days. "Security systems are looped. You've got 8 minutes." Emily placed her hand against the laboratory door's biometric scanner, using a patch of synthesized skin created from a dead Imperial scientist's DNA. The door slid open silently, revealing rows of advanced research stations. "I'm in their main lab," she vocalized through the link. "Beginning data extraction." Her fingers flew over the holographic interface, breaking through security layers using codes she'd gathered from weeks of careful observation. The first files confirmed her worst fears. Project files, test results, and clinical trials all pointed to one horrifying truth. The play hadn't been an accident. It was version 7.0 of something called the Purification Protocol. "Marcus," she transmitted, "are you seeing this? They've been testing different variants on their own colonial worlds. This whole sector is one giant laboratory." The data painted a picture of systematic evil. The Empire had been developing a bioweapon that could target specific genetic markers. The colonial populations, considered genetically impure by Imperial standards, were perfect test subjects. "Wait," Emily whispered, finding a hidden directory. "There's more. The Hope's Light. They didn't just attack us to hide the tests. They were afraid of something specific in our medical database." She pulled up more files, her heart racing, as the truth unfolded. The Empire scientists had discovered that human medical technology, specifically their advanced nanomedical systems, could detect the artificial nature of the plague. Worse, those same systems could potentially be modified to cure it. "They're planning something bigger," she transmitted, downloading everything she could. "This is just the testing phase. They've got plans for mass production facilities near Earth's sector. They're going to." The light suddenly flared to full brightness. Behind her, the laboratory door slid open. "Dr. Walker," Imperial Commander Reed's voice was cold as space. "I must admit, you've led us on quite a chase. But now, I think it's time we had a proper discussion about what you've seen." Emily turned slowly, her hand hovering over the Neuralink's emergency beacon. Reed stood in the doorway with 4 armed guards, their weapons trained on her position. "It won't matter," she said, meeting his gaze. "The data's already transmitting. The whole galaxy will know what you've done." Reed's smile was empty of warmth. You really think we'd leave our network connected to outside communications during a security alert? Your transmission is going nowhere." Emily allowed herself a small smile. "I wasn't transmitting through your network." The floor suddenly trembled as something massive passed overhead. Through the laboratory's high windows, she could see the distinctive biomechanical hull of the Thunder moving into position above the medical center. "You see, Commander," Emily continued, "while you were hunting me, I was learning every detail of your operation, every security pattern, every protocol." She held up her neural link, and broadcasting it all through a quantum-entangled transmitter to Earth's fleet. Reed's face contorted with rage. "Kill her," he shouted, but before his guards could fire, the ceiling erupted with dozens of micropods, each one a smaller version of the Hope's Light's medical deployment systems. Instead of medical aid, these released clouds of mural disruptors, dropping the Imperial forces where they stood. Emily stepped over Reed's unconscious form, retrieving the final data core from the lab's central computer. "The thing about doctors, Commander," she said to his silent form, "is that we know how things work, how they break, and most importantly, how to make sure they never hurt anyone again." Above the medical center, the Thunder's massive form cast a shadow over the colonial city. Earth's hidden fleet had arrived, not just to rescue her, but to begin the process of revealing the Empire's crimes to every world in their domain. Grand Admiral Elizabeth Drake of the Imperial First Fleet stood before the Emperor's hologram, her decorated uniform unable to hide the tension in her shoulders. "The reports are confirmed, Your Majesty. We've lost contact with 23 battle groups. The human fleet moves like nothing we've ever encountered." The Emperor's crystalline eyes narrowed. "Then we will end this where it began. Gather the home fleet. We will strike at Earth itself." Surely they must have left their homeworld defenseless to mount such an offensive. Drake hesitated. "My lord, the intelligence reports suggest." The reports were wrong. The Emperor's voice cracked with rage. "They said the humans were primitive. They said their technology was generations behind ours. I want Earth reduced to ash, Admiral Drake. Every ocean boiled away, every city burned. Let's see how well their ships fight when their hidden bases are destroyed." The Imperial Home Fleet assembled above the Empire's throne world. 300 capital ships, the largest armada ever gathered. At its heart, the Emperor's personal dreadnought, Eternal Dominion, stretched 20 kilometers from bow to stern. Drake watched the fleet enter hyperspace from her command bridge. Something about this felt wrong. The humans had proven far too clever so far. Could Earth really be defenseless? They emerged from hyperspace at Earth's solar system's edge. Long-range scans showed minimal defense forces in orbit, no sign of the mysterious fleet that had been devastating Imperial forces across the galaxy. "See," the Emperor's voice held savage triumph. "They overextended, committed everything to their offensive. Begin the attack run." The Imperial fleet accelerated toward Earth, their formation perfect, their weapons primed. They passed Mars without incident. No resistance, no challenge. Then Lieutenant Sarah Maxwell, Drake's sensor officer, frowned. "Admiral, there's something odd about the debris field we're approaching." Drake studied the readings. Earth's orbit was cluttered with old satellites, space junk, and defunct stations, a messy testament to humanity's early space age. But as she looked closer, she saw what Maxwell had noticed. The debris. It was too perfectly positioned. "Full stop," she shouted, but it was already too late. The debris field came alive. Thousands of objects, long dismissed as space junk, revealed themselves as automated defense platforms. Each one had been disguised, their energy signatures masked by centuries of careful planning. "Project Hydra. Activated," a synthetic voice announced across all frequencies. "Welcome to Thunder's Net. The Emperor's voice crackled with alarm. Evasive action. Launch fighters. But the defense grid had been designed for exactly this scenario. Networks of nanowire, previously invisible, created an intricate web through space. Imperial ships found their engines suddenly entangled, their movement restricted by smart materials that adapted to their escape attempts. From Earth's surface, more surprises emerge. The oceans themselves seemed to boil as hidden platforms rose from the depths. But these weren't ships. They were launch systems for something far worse. Biomechanical swarm units detected, Maxwell reported, her voice shaking. Millions of them. They're based on Earth insects. Drake watched in horror as clouds of tiny machines engulfed Imperial ships. Based on everything from wasps to water beetles, each swarm was designed to target specific systems. Hull plating dissolved under chemical attacks inspired by termite colonies. Navigation systems failed as micro-machines using ant-based algorithms infiltrated computer cores. Admiral Stone is hailing us, communications reported. The thunder emerged from behind Earth's moon, leading a fresh fleet that had never left the solar system. The message was simple. You thought the oceans were our only hiding place. Humanity learned to look up long before we looked down. Surrender or face the full power of both. The Emperor's dreadnought turned to flee, only to find its path blocked by a wall of orbital platforms that had once been disguised as asteroid fragments. The home fleet, pride of the Empire, found itself trapped in a three-dimensional web of humanity's making. Your Majesty, Drake said quietly, I suggest we consider their terms. We may have just discovered why the humans never seemed concerned about planetary defense. She watched another Imperial ship go dark, its systems overwhelmed by Earth's hidden guardians. They never needed it. They built something far worse instead. The Emperor's throne room aboard the Eternal Dominion had lost its grandeur. Emergency lighting cast harsh shadows across the crystal walls, and the distant sound of micro-swarms eating through the hull created an endless, unsettling symphony. Admiral Jessica Stone stood before the Empire's ruler, her white hair gleaming in the dim light. Behind her, Dr. Emily Walker held a data tablet displaying proof of the Empire's bioweapon program. They made no effort to bow. You think this is victory? The Emperor's voice dripped with disdain. You've revealed your secrets. The galaxy now knows of your hidden strength. Other powers will never trust humanity again. Stone's laugh was cold as deep ocean trenches. Trust? You mean like how the galaxy trusted you? Dr. Walker, show him the latest updates from the colonial worlds. Emily stepped forward, projecting a hologram that filled the throne room. Dozens of worlds appeared, each one marked with the Empire's sigil. As they watched, the sigils began to change, replaced by symbols of independence. Turns out, Emily said, when people learn they were being used as test subjects for bioweapons, they tend to reconsider their loyalties, especially when the truth comes with a cure. The Emperor rose, his crystalline form catching the emergency lights. A cure? Impossible. Our weapons were perfect. Perfect. Stone interrupted. Your scientists created those weapons in sterile labs, testing them on helpless populations. We developed our cures in the most hostile environment on Earth, our oceans. Every disease, every virus you created, we've already seen worse in the deep. Through the throne room's viewport, Earth's hidden fleet hung in formation around the crippled Imperial Armada. The Thunder's biomechanical hull rippled with patterns of light, a display that made several Imperial officers turn away in fear. The Hope's light, Stone continued, wasn't just a medical ship. It was a testament to everything you failed to understand about humanity. We don't just fight. We don't just heal. We do both, together, better than anyone. Emily activated another hologram, showing medical ships emerging from Earth's oceans, new vessels built with the same biomechanical technology, as the thunder. These are already heading to every world you infected. While your empire crumbles, we'll do what we've always done. We'll help people heal. The emperor sank back into his throne. And what of me? What of my empire? Your empire is over, Stone declared. But its end won't come from our weapons. Grand Admiral Drake. Elizabeth Drake stepped into the throne room, her imperial uniform now bearing new insignia. The Outer Worlds have already voted to form a new alliance, one based on mutual defense and medical cooperation. They're calling it the Thunder Accord. The Emperor's crystal form seemed to dim, and those who refused to join. Stone's smile was sharp as a shark's. They're welcome to stay independent, but they should remember, Earth's oceans still hold many secrets. The Thunder Fleet they've seen. It's just the beginning of what we can launch when needed. Through the window, repair pods swarmed around the damaged Imperial ships, their design echoing the medical pods from the Hope's Light. Earth had chosen to heal rather than destroy, but the message was clear. They could do either with equal skill. Captain Hayes, Emily said softly, touching the memorial band on her wrist, once told me that humanity's greatest strength was our ability to learn from everything around us. The oceans taught us patience. Nature taught us innovation. And you, she looked directly at the Emperor, taught us the price of showing mercy without strength to back it up. The thunder signal cut through all communications channels, broadcasting across the galaxy. It carried images of Earth's hidden fleet, of the cured colonial worlds, of imperial citizens celebrating their freedom. But it also carried a warning, a reminder that beneath Earth's peaceful waves, more ships could rise at any time. The age of imperial power was over. The time of thunder had begun. And throughout the galaxy, a new saying began to spread. Beware the race that learns from its oceans, for they know how deep power can truly run.